Oceans are one of the most important and an elementary part of life on Earth. They stabilize our climate system and store 50 times more greenhouse gases than the atmosphere. In fact, they are the most important carbon sink on our planet. They're also home to hundreds of thousands of marine species whose survival is crucial to our life on Earth. On Eco India today, let's talk about what's being done to take care of our oceans. Hello and welcome, I'm Sanuta Raghu. For our first story, we don't go very far, just a few kilometers from here in Mumbai. Marine life and especially coral colonies here are threatened by pollution and environmental degradation. A collective of young marine activists is working to create awareness and safeguard the city's coastline.
Mumbai is known for being India's financial capital, for its beachfronts and densely populated streets. But when the tides recede from its shoreline every day, they reveal a part of the city that only few of its residents have ever seen.
See these pink things you can see. Basically, these are egg capsules of one snail called murex, locally called rock snail. Yeah, plenty of them are there, and one gyranium snail also you can see here.
Pradeep Patade is a sailor who teaches water sports on the side. He started coming out in 2018, book and camera in hand, to walk this shoreline.
Oh wow! Where is it?
Very small one.
Oh. Maybe juvenile because the color is not pink. Yeah, super.
And it started pretty serendipitously for him.
One day when I was scanning fisherman's net, I got to see one seahorse in fisherman's net entangled. It's a small animal like 3 inches long. It was very close to the shore, around 500 meters from our shores towards Nariman Point. And I got like zapped. Array, so much of life everywhere, corals, zoanthids, sea fans, sponges. It's like I got amazed.
In 2018, Patade started documenting the coast. Today, dozens of volunteers walk with him and 4 other members of his group, now called Marine Life Mumbai, looking for wildlife that has so far remained largely unseen. One member of the group, Sarang Naik, uses photography to reveal the ecosystem. He has photographed nudibranchs, corals, zoanthids, octopuses and starfish, among other small to microscopic species here. The team has set up an organization called Coastal Conservation Foundation, and along with other members like Shaunak Modi, their goal is to secure legal protection for the species they document.
We have a long way to go for protecting, right? We don't even know what exists here. So we go from shore to shore during low tides. What that does is basically builds a baseline information of all the marine diversity of the city. We really want other people to make use of the data that we are collecting. In fact, people have, right from say students who are doing the dissertation have used our data. Our data has been used in news articles, in the court. What we want is multiple people to provide data to the database and for every stakeholder to make use of it, including the government and the authorities.
While this community works above water, another resident of Mumbai goes under. 23-year-old scuba diver Vidhi Bubna has a similar love story with the ocean.
And the idea for me was to go and explore what exactly are the mysteries of the ocean that I'm not able to comprehend living in Bombay. And I wanted to see marine life. I wanted to see sharks, manta rays, turtles in their own natural habitat.
Bubna photographs the coral reef and the life around to just show residents what's down there. She then conducts workshops with locals, including fishing and other local communities. The hope is to mobilize people into standing up against pollution and sewage that has been flowing into the ocean, destroying habitats.
So I think for any community or for any individual to realize the importance of climate change, they really need to see what's happening. And because the oceans are so polluted in Bombay, they cannot see corals down, they cannot see the marine life clearly. And to educate more people about coral life, what we do is we host workshops where we project beautiful images of corals as well as marine life and educate people that these things are there in the oceans and they need to be protected because they are being threatened. So the entire idea is to spread awareness to the level that they know that this beautiful marine life is real and our actions are actually impacting them, and they therefore work towards saving it.
The big threat that all citizens groups are up against at the moment is a 1.6 billion euro highway project that is planned in this area. It was opposed in court, but the city authorities defended its viability and won the case. The court, though, has asked the city to translocate the coral life elsewhere, but people like Bhuban are concerned how that will affect the entire system if the corals don't survive.
So corals are the basic units of the marine food ecosystem, just like plants are the basic units of the land ecosystem and the land food chain. So if corals die, the smaller fishes are going to die as a result of that, and the larger fishes are going to die, and the entire chain will go on.
Together and separately, concerned citizens of Mumbai are working in their own niches to push the cause of wildlife and biodiversity in the city forward.
My mission is to give the sea its due. It's not being done right now, and I want it to be done. When we look at protection, when we look at rehabilitation, when we look at relocation, it's done for certain species. Why? Because they're ecologically important. To whom? Why are just those species ecologically important? Have we studied every other species to say that they are not important? And who are we to decide what is important and what is not? They may be playing a role in the ecosystem that we don't know about. My aim is to have a more holistic vision for our shoreline and our oceans.
To date, the team has documented over 500 small and virtually invisible species along Mumbai's coast. By drawing attention to their very existence, these citizen warriors hope to ensure valuable marine life can continue to fulfill its role in Mumbai's environment.
Now, safeguarding marine life is very commendable and the need of the hour. But sometimes we're faced with difficult choices. For example, when extracting rare resources from the sea that could enable a more sustainable energy supply. Manganese nodules are one such case. They contain valuable metals that can be used in batteries, e-cars and solar panels. But is the deep-sea mining of these nodules environmentally friendly? Let's find out.
Cobalt, copper and nickel, they're all what are known as transition metals. They're all around us and yet are considered rare elements. We need them to make batteries, smartphones, laptops, electric cars, photovoltaic systems and other types of power storage. The extractable amount of copper, cobalt and nickel is very limited. These resources could soon be exhausted. That's especially true of cobalt. It's estimated that the global demand for it could double by 2026. The largest cobalt reserves are in Congo and Australia, where it's often mined under appalling working conditions. Polymetallic nodules from the seabed could alleviate the problem. It's been estimated that they contain around 270 million tonnes of nickel, 230 million tonnes of copper, and 50 million tonnes of cobalt. The nodules are spread across large areas of the seabed at a depth of between 3,500 and 6,500 metres. In environments that have hardly been explored. Polymetallic nodules grow very slowly and require a steady supply of oxygen as well as a constant stream of Arctic deep water. Just how those nodules grow is a pretty complex process, but put in simple terms, it all starts with minute organic particles like shell splinters or fragment of shark's tooth. Over millions of years, metallic compounds dissolved by the seawater accumulate around those particles and grow about a centimetre every million years, until they're the size of potatoes or even cauliflower heads.
The first findings of polymetallic nodules were actually done by the Challenger expedition in 1874. That's been a long, long time, and they just brought up a few with the tools where they took sediment samples. And the interest for economics started really in the 70s. People found out that these metals are in there, and that's where it sparked and more of exploration happened.
So, scientists are not the only ones interested in polymetallic nodules. A lot of companies are also keen to extract and exploit them. Deep-sea mining advocates say procuring the nodules from the sea is more sustainable than conventional mining. No forests are destroyed and no mining galleries have to be built. There would be no child labour or toxic fumes. The nodules could simply be collected from the seabed. At least theoretically. But one of the problems engineers are facing is the high pressure present in the deep sea. No machines have been able to harvest the nodules on the seabed in a commercially viable way, yet. Machines that look like vacuum cleaners are currently being tested. Other prototypes are also in development. The biggest concern is the impact this technology could have on marine wildlife, because it won't just be sucking up nodules as it moves along the seabed. So who makes the rules that govern the deep sea? It's a UN organisation called the International Seabed Authority. In 1994, the EU and 167 countries signed a multilateral agreement that regulates deep-sea mining. So far, the Seabed Authority has only approved licences to research the polymetallic nodules, not mine them. A German research project has been studying the effects of deep-sea mining for several years. The GeoMar Research Centre and the Max Planck Institute for Marine Microbiology participated in the project. They discovered that the nodules play an important role for the seabed fauna by providing a vital habitat for sea creatures.
We saw that a lot of these manganese nodules have associated fauna. So you have glass sponges that look a little bit like, for example, tulips. So you have long stalks, and then you have the main body on top, and they really grow attached to these nodules, and they can host a variety of species.
The research project simulated the effects of deep-sea mining in an area of a few square kilometres of seabed. The dimensions of large-scale commercial deep-sea mining would be vastly different.
We're talking about thousands of square kilometers being destroyed per year. The main impact is that in these areas, the biological active zone, the top 5 to 10 centimeters of the deep sea, are completely wiped out and destroyed, together with the fauna. And any kind of recolonization or recovery of this system for the soft sediment will take hundreds to thousands of years.
Many deep-sea microorganisms and animals could be disturbed or destroyed by the machines. Even the relatively modest research project altered the environment.
We figured out that after more than 25 years, most of the parameters that were analyzed didn't recover fully. So you can expect that even the part that might recover, that is independent of the nodules, that they will definitely be gone, will need decades to centuries if it can recover at all.
The mining could even disrupt the ocean's complex food chains. So, is there any way to make deep-sea mining sustainable?
That is not sustainable because it's not regrowing. Very simple as that. I think we can already make up our mind as society if we want to accept this impact or not.
It's a dilemma. If the deep-sea nodules are off limits, where will we find enough of the metals we need to produce cleaner energy? First, we can reuse what we already have by taking precious metals out of batteries and other devices. Several companies are already optimizing the recycling process. And we can reduce our consumption and use the devices that contain these precious metals much longer.
Another treasure is being retrieved from the oceans in India's Tamil Nadu. Sea cucumbers are banned from being sold in India because they are considered to be critically endangered. But poachers still prey on them. Why are they so important and what's being done to protect them? Let's find out.
Under these pristine waters lies a strange creature that's creating quite a stir. Not only in the local fishing town of Mandapam, one of the southernmost of India, but all the way into the mainland and beyond to neighboring China. The sea cucumber. This one can grow up to 30 centimeters long. Conservationists have been trying to study the marine animals.
Sea cucumbers are called the earthworms of the sea. Just like how earthworms are a farmer's friend, the sea cucumber plays the role of earthworms in the sea, which means it helps to make the soil more fertile, and this is good for the seagrasses and also other associated organisms that live on the sea floor and even the water column above it.
Over the last 4 years, local Forest Range Officer S. Satish has taken on the role of protecting the sea cucumber because of its important ecological role.
The sea cucumber's excreta is alkaline in nature, and so it neutralizes the increasing acidity on the sea surface. And as it neutralizes, the coral reefs underneath are saved from the threat of bleaching. When the coral reef is healthy, fish, prawns, crabs, and other creatures thrive around it. So, only if the sea cucumber thrives in the sea will there be fish in the sea for our future generations.
The threat to the sea cucumbers began when demand for them started soaring, mostly in China. Dried sea cucumber, known as bêche de mer, is a popular delicacy and also considered an aphrodisiac. As a result, poaching in India has increased 13-fold over the last 5 years.
Lots of young people were involved in this crime. Big smugglers were misleading young people, saying they would only go to jail for 5 to 10 days, and then they would come out and the case would be dropped. But through awareness campaigns conducted by the Forest Department, we have reiterated that this is a highly dangerous act. The punishment is similar to the crime of poaching a tiger or an elephant.
The sea cucumber is listed under the Wildlife Protection Act as a Schedule 1 species, which means the punishment could go from fines of 2 lakh rupees, about 2,000 euros, up to jail time. The forest officials patrol this area, checking for the contraband and also teaching people in the villages about the consequences of getting caught. Some former poachers have learned their lesson. We spoke to one who wishes to remain anonymous.
I once got caught poaching. They told me that the punishment would be between 3 to 7 years imprisonment. The elders in my community decided that it was wrong to do this when it's illegal. So we decided that we would stick to catching fish or crabs. Even if cucumbers get caught in our net, we take them out and return them to the water.
But this hasn't been easy for the fishing community, who have traditionally fished for sea cucumbers for their own needs. The ban, which came in 2001, has affected their livelihoods.
Even if fishers could only fish for sea cucumbers at certain times and not all year round, they could still survive. There are divers from Toothukudi in the south to Rameswaram in the north, and they are all struggling. If every now and again they were allowed to catch just 4 sea cucumbers, they could sell those for 200 rupees, just over 2 euros, which would buy them a decent amount of food.
It's a complex problem with the sea cucumber in the middle of it all. if forest officers like Satish are able to protect the animals by keeping an eye out for poachers, the coastal marine ecosystem has a better shot at surviving, and the local fishermen could get back their livelihoods.
Coastal areas are very sensitive ecosystems. Fishing itself can have a negative impact on them. In Spain, a group of volunteer divers is trying to raise awareness about this problem and organize cleanup expeditions to remove metal and garbage from the sea.
Short-snouted seahorses, soft corals, Neptune grass, gropers, and a wide variety of seaweed inhabit the Mediterranean waters off Murcia in southeastern Spain. With 73 kilometers of coast and the biggest saltwater lagoon in Europe, it's a paradise for recreational fishing. But many fishermen use lead sinkers. They can end up on the seabed, where they pose a threat to marine life.
Let's take the case of a fish feeding on algae growing on a piece of lead. When that fish approaches and begins eating the algae, it also ingests the lead. It becomes part of the marine food chain, the small fish being eaten by the bigger fish, and so on. The lead is passed from one to the other until finally we, as seafood consumers, wind up with that lead on our plate.
Some fishers are starting to use alternative sinkers made of ceramic or zinc. But the UN estimates some 640,000 tons of fishing gear, including hazardous metals, still ends up in our oceans each year. To combat the problem, volunteers from Hippocampus, an organization focused on the conservation of short-snouted seahorses, have launched the Plum Boom project.
Plum Boom is a project born after so many dives, where we saw so much rubbish made from metal, from lead used in sport fishing and professional fishing. Nets loaded with lead sinkers, for example.
To remove the metals from the sea, the project relies on a vast network of volunteer divers, like Felix Arias Herranz. Today, he's joining a cleaning expedition at Cabo de Palos, a seaside village in one of the most biodiverse areas in the Mediterranean basin.
We're going to collect lead from the sea floor, mainly marine weights and hooks from fishing gear. Small pieces that settle on the bottom and get half buried. Let's see if we get lucky.
With the help of metal detectors, divers can collect between 4 and 45 kilos of lead at each cleaning. The results are registered on a website that monitors their efforts. Since 2017, more than 14,000 metal sinkers, equivalent to 1 ton of lead, have been removed from the Mediterranean. But Plum Boom doesn't just remove the metal, it also contributes to the circular economy by giving it a second life. Thanks to public funds and private contributions, 200 containers have been distributed at diving centers and yacht clubs along the coast. Here, all divers can deposit pieces they've salvaged.
We put the lead here. Then the association collects it and takes it to the companies we have an agreement with. They can recycle the metal so it can be used again in batteries, for example.
Once the containers are full, the project coordinators bring them back to the Heavy Metals Recovery Center. To date, they've delivered more than 900 kilos for recycling. Apart from lead, other garbage, such as plastic, cans, and glass, is harming the marine ecosystem. Normally, only divers see the damage firsthand. So Plum Boom members also organize photo exhibitions to raise awareness and reveal the underwater reality.
People who don't dive can imagine what is underwater, but they don't really know. So if we show them photos and explain to them the consequences of having garbage in the sea, they become more aware.
In addition to encouraging the use of sustainable sinkers, Plum Boom is working with governments to implement eco-friendly marine policies. And it's appealing to all people to stop throwing trash into the sea.
Now, it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that the health of our planet depends on the health of its marine life. Life on Earth began in our oceans, and it falls upon our generation to make sure we protect it. Think about that, and I'll see you again next week. From our entire team, goodbye and thanks for watching.